So all of these questions for this session relate to the dot points on the first page of Budget Paper 4, Volume 1, identifying the administered items. So starting with, in relation to the Education Standards Board, which is responsible for, amongst other things, reporting on standards and assessments of childcare centres. For each of the last 3 years, how many prohibition notices, unenforceable undertakings and show cause notices has the Education Standards Board issued to early childhood education care providers in South Australia? And how are those figures tracking to date in 2025?
I might pass over to the Acting Chief Executive to give an answer to this question.
Thank you. Through you, Minister. So I have the data for 2023 and 2024, and then financial year to date. So in 2023-24, we issued 3 prohibition notices, entered into 2 enforceable undertakings, and issued 9 show cause notices. In this financial year to date, we have issued 3 show cause notices. We have issued 5 prohibition notices and entered into 9 enforceable undertakings.
So that's the second set of figures is this year to date. Mm-hmm. So it's already quite a substantial increase compared to last year. Has there been any analysis of the basis for that increase, a higher level of compliance activity or alternative explanations?
Yeah, so I'm advised it is due to an increase in compliance activity and the $7.11 million that was provided to the ESB across the 3-year period ending 31st of December 2025. As you will no doubt remember, Member for Morialta, this was a recommendation of the Royal Commission report, and that money has gone towards the number of authorised officers across quality and compliance doubled, with an increase from 18 FTE to 39 FTE. The number of assessment and ratings in 24-25 as at the 31st of May 2025 compared to 23-24 increased by 19%, with 157 assessments and ratings undertaken compared to 132 assessments and ratings undertaken for the year 23-24, and a 48% increase compared to 2021-2022. The number of visits to early childhood education and care services increased by 72% on previous years, with 2024-25 seeing a further 23% increase on top of 23-24 through increased assessment and ratings and introducing some proactive monitoring. I might leave my answer there.
Thank you. I know there are a number of key regulations that are often used related to compliance, exceeding educator to child ratios, or that should be child to educator ratios, depending on how you read it, I guess. Employing staff not with the relevant qualifications, unsafe sleep or rest practices. Is there a breakdown available of which key regulations have been most used in relation to those show cause notices, enforceable undertakings and prohibition notices? And I assume that more than one regulation may be breached in relation to any specific cause, but if there's data on how many each of them are used, I'd be very grateful.
Yeah, we can provide that on notice. notice to you, Member for Morialta.
Thank you, sir. Is it possible to get, in that same context, potentially a list of the relevant services that have received those?
I'm told that if they're publicly available, yes, but if not, we might need to seek some advice on whether we can do that.
All right, and just to wrap up on this chain, we've talked about this year to date so far in 2024. Are we able to get the couple of years previous to that as well in the same information being taken on notice?
If we're able to, yes.
Thank you. I understand that about 96% of early childhood services have a quality rating, which by my maths suggests there's 4% that don't have a quality rating. Is that meaning that they've never been assessed, or is there some other explanation for that? Are they new services, or?
So I'm informed that the only services that don't have a rating are those which have commenced within 18 months, and that is in line with the existing policy.
Okay, so it's 18 months after a service commences operation before they would receive this sort of assessment? Or is that just the acceptable target?
Not in all cases, sometimes it might be sooner than that, but 18 months, I guess, is the upper limit of how long before they need to have their A&R, but I understand that quite a number would be done within that time.
Right, okay. And I understand that according to fairly recent data, 16%, which would equate to about 200 services, are currently rated as working towards the national quality standard. Does the Education Standards Board have any analysis, or does the Minister have any analysis of whether that figure is reasonable by national standards, and what is the approach being taken to ensure those services come up to an improved assessment in the future?
I'll pass over to Mr Heffernan to provide an answer on this one.
Thank you. Through you, Minister. So the percentage of services that have a working towards is higher than the national average. The national amount is around 9%. There are a couple of reasons for that, though. The reasoning includes that there has been such a big gap in between assessment and rating visits, so where there has been a service that hasn't been assessed or rated potentially between 8 or 10 years. So up until we received the $7.11 million, where we were able to then increase the frequency of assessment and ratings. What we were finding, though, was a large number of services at that time, given the gap between the assessment and ratings. 50% of those were receiving a working towards. What we've done is introduced a pre-assessment and rating visit, which is around 3 months before their assessment and rating actually commences, which then determines areas of compliance or areas that might need focus. And what that has done is reduce that significantly down to around 17%.
Thank you. I might just add to that, if I may, Member for Morialta, that the Office for Early Childhood Development also have a quality uplift program as part of what they are doing as well, to try to, boost the results of those A&Rs up to a higher level than they might currently be.
Very good. I'll move on to non-government schools. I don't know if you need any different advisors.
Sure.
Happy with Luke? Excellent. Can the Minister provide any update that is available on discussions he may have had with the Commonwealth regarding their discontinuation of the non-government schools reform support fund? This was some funding I think was removed by the Commonwealth after the election of the Albanese government the first time around. In previous estimates, I'm fairly sure we've discussed that the state government was advocating for that to be reinstated, and the Commonwealth was saying that they would be seeking agreement of the full SRS prior to considering any further things for non-government schools. Has there been any further movement on this source of funding so valued by non-government schools?
Perhaps just a point of clarification, Member for Morialto. Are you referring to the money that went to mid-year intake or different?
No, this is earlier. My next question is going to be on the mid-year intake. This is funding that hasn't been with us for a few years, from my recollection. It was going to the ASA and SACEs, from my recollection. It was a modest but appreciated sum of money. I think it was called the Non-Government Reform Support Fund.
Right, yes, okay, I think I do recall. And yes, we did advocate for it, and you're correct, it hasn't been reinstated at this point, I think.
Another fund then that the Minister alluded to, that the Minister told us he was advocating for a couple of years ago, was Commonwealth support for non-government schools media reception entry. What stage is that up for?
Yes, so you are right. That was a long and protracted negotiation because the federal support from the federal government towards contribution towards mid-year intake for both the non-government system and the government system in South Australia was removed. We advocated hard on behalf of, well, obviously ourselves, but also the non-government system, and particularly the Catholic system, which offers a lot of mid-year intake, and I think it's a really good thing. We had some success close to the federal election, where I believe the federal government has reinstated a year of funding for mid-year intake, but only for the non-government system. So the money that we previously received in the public system has not yet been reinstated, but that is something that I'll be raising very early in the piece with the federal
So how
colleague.
much does the federal government owe us annually that they're refusing to pay us?
So I'm advised, Member for Morialto, that at the time it was estimated that the funding from the Australian government was about $7.7 million for 2 terms of schooling.
And the funding the federal government's now providing to non-government schools, did I hear that you said it was for 1 year only, or is that now ongoing?
It's at this stage it is for 1 year.
Can I move to the SACE board perhaps now? Minister, I don't know if you need to introduce.
Yes, Chair, if I could introduce the Chief Executive of the SACE board, Michaela Bensley, who to my left.
Hello. Can the Minister provide an update on the SACE subject renewal roadmap?
Yes, thank you, Member for Morialto, and I might make a few opening remarks, and then Ms Bensley might like to add to those. The SACE board is committed to a comprehensive program of subject renewal as a key deliverable of its strategic plan. The board have identified key curriculum and assessment innovations after gathering emerging learning from working with school leaders, teachers and students through the last strategic plan. It's the intention that the new learnings be applied to all subjects so that all students have the benefit of a modern and responsive curriculum that better supports students to thrive in complex and volatile post-school pathways. The SACE board has also identified a possible increase in payments to panellists who undertake setting, vetting, marking and moderating activities. A budget bid has been put in for this. It has not been successful at this point. The board has developed contingencies to ensure they create awareness and desire amongst the education community. And perhaps I might pass over to Ms Bensley to give a bit more detail if she wishes on.
Key to this initiative was, with the 60 subjects that we're hoping to renew, was go through a complexity matrix to understand the degree of change, the volume of change and the appetite for change. We've now grouped those subjects into 3 distinct groups, and their pace will differ depending on the, depending on the appetite. We've held over 60 workshops. There's over 500 teachers that are involved in the subject renewal groups. We're working in a co-design with those groups who are working on their subject blueprints and their mission statements and vision statements now.
Are those groups groups of teachers that have come together from within those subject specialties for the purpose of this project, or are there other existing groups that you're tapping into?
Both. So firstly, we wanted diversity of experience. So we went to the system for an expression of interest for teachers to nominate to be a part of the reference group. Obviously, we then kind of worked on those groups having a composition of metro, country experience, less experienced teachers, socioeconomic composition, because those groups are going to be the ones that test in the classroom with students some of the innovations that we want for this subject. But in addition to that, we're working with Educators SA, the subject associations, and particularly those leads there, or the chairs there, as well as the schooling sectors and others in terms of the input. Also an important group is our lead practitioners, so those ones who are responsible for, say, setting the exam and helping us with the marking and moderation.
Thank you. Are there any, in terms of resourcing for the project, are those groups that you're engaging with doing so out of the goodness of their hearts and the staff time that their schools or other employers might have let them go, or is there are there any groups that are charging SACE? SACE is having to pay external contractors or organisations for their time and their work?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of excitement, as you'd expect, in the system for the changes. Both the teachers who are in the reference group as well as that broader community are very engaged in the process and are happy to donate their time at this point in time. I think where we'll look at releasing teachers in terms of TRTs is when we get to kind of implementation and particularly focusing on professional development workshops. But at the moment, it's in kind.
Thank you. And then in return, in terms of the SACE board's own budget, can you give us a sense of the resourcing that from within SACE's resources has been expended on there? I don't know if there's a financial budget line allocated or a number of staff that are focused on it.
Yeah.
So far, and secondly, prospectively going forward.
Yes, so we've been able to, within our existing resources, provide additional what we call education consultants, who are the key conduit for this work associated with those renewal groups. There's 5 additional of those, and we feel like with our own kind of efficiencies we should be able to continue on with that work. But as we move through the next kind of financial year, we'll have a better sense of the subjects in terms of the degree to which they're going to be ready for implementation and the resourcing that will be required from then on.
Thank you. What is the SACE board's the SACE organisation's headcount and FTE?
Yeah, it's in the budget.
As per the budget papers for 2025-26, 113.1.
And is that the number of people working at SACE, or is that the estimate based on the budget allocation?
I'm told it's the total number working at SACE.
Okay, thank you. Is that expected to move in the coming financial year?
Not at this moment. We do not expect that, no.
Have there been any significant movements in staffing over the last financial year?
I'm advised there have not been.
Thank you. Is the Deputy Chief Executive role currently filled?
Told it's currently vacant.
Is there a recruitment process underway? Is there information that can be provided about how that's working?
I'm advised that the board feels there is sufficient capability internally at this stage, and for that reason won't be going out for and looking to fill that role externally at this time.
Why did the previous deputy leave?
Apparently, I am told that he missed working in schools and the connection with students and wanted to go back and do that. And that is what he has done.
Fair enough. But how much was spent on the recruitment for that appointment?
We'll take that on notice, Member for Morialta.
Thank you. How long has it been vacant?
I'm told 2 months.
Thank you. Happy to move to the Teachers Registration Board. Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett.
Thanks, Michaela. Mr. Joseph Nguyen, who is the acting registrar of the Teachers Registration Board, to my left.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering how many teachers or educators have been suspended this year, and perhaps as a comparison, is it easier to do by financial year or calendar year?
I only have data for the 2024 calendar year.
All right. So, in that case, my question can go to calendar years. How many in 2024 and how many so far this year?
So in 2024, there were a total of 8 teachers suspended as a result of the registrar's actions, and a total of 1 suspension as a result of disciplinary proceedings, and a total of 9 as a result of the teacher becoming prohibited, and a total of 165 as a result of the teacher not renewing their Working with Children check.
Is it possible to identify, Minister, how many, have any teachers cancelled their membership, or indeed, what's the data on how many have not renewed their membership in the most recent year that we have figures for?
I can tell you that the number of teachers who did not renew their registration is 75, and they expired on the 31st of January this year.
And is there correlating data for the last couple of years? Is that a figure that is growing or decreasing? I realise that there was a change in the number of years that people were renewing for, so that may have skewed the data somewhat, but is there any analysis from the TRB on whether we're heading in what sort of direction we're heading in?
We'll take that on notice.
How many teachers have had restrictions placed on their registration in the last year? And for what reason, in as much as you're able to provide?
Of impositions of conditions due to disciplinary proceedings, the number is 2.
Do we have any information about the reasons for those two?
No.
All right. I think it's Greg Mackey's last week in the role, so it would seem a shame not to invite the History Trust to enter the proceedings. Let's come all the way here.
Chair, if I could introduce Mr. Greg Mackey, the Chief Executive of the History Trust of South Australia.
Don't get attached.
For a little while longer anyway.
I'm sure he'll be around. Can the Minister provide an update on capital works at the Migration Museum, both the work that has been completed since he and I visited a couple of years ago, and what works may still be ongoing, and what works or what future capital plans does the government have for the site?
I'll pass over so Mr. Mackey gets the opportunity in his last one of these to say a few words and get something on Hansard, but the History Trust did secure a $6.3 million budget allocation for urgent structural integrity, compliance and accessibility works on the site. The project managers for that are the Department of Infrastructure and Transport, who are managing the works, and SA Heritage Architects Hoskin Willis were awarded the master plan tender. Master and concept planning is nearing completion and planning submissions are due by October 2025, but I might give Mr. Mackey the opportunity to perhaps add a few extra words to that important project.
Thank you, Minister. The master planning for the repurposing or extended purposing of the lying-in hospital precinct is underway. As the Minister mentioned, Hoskin Willis have been appointed and are undertaking that work in order to ensure that not only are we fixing broken things, but that we are fixing them so that they will be useful to the future purposes of the Migration Museum. We undertook an extensive stakeholder consultation with the leaders and movers and shakers in the cold communities, and they absolutely reinforced that the Migration Museum is not only a special place for the keeping of and sharing of stories, but also for gatherings, and the courtyard and the amenities surrounding the courtyard, including, of course, disability compliant toilet facilities, have been long in need of the next upgrade, and that work is due to commence later next year.
Thank you. Before we move on to skills, sir.